Hey everybody, today we are going to be talking about our third frequently asked question, and that is, how do we fix this? We've talked about the harmful inequities in Pennsylvania education funding. We've talked about the fair funding formula. We've talked about what hold harmless is, how that is the situation where some of the money is distributed to districts based on what they've gotten in the past, not at all based on what they currently need. And we've talked about the racial inequities that are in the funding as it is right now. So today we're going to talk about solutions. How do we actually get this fixed? One of the solutions, the main one that we focus on, would be solutions that are in the legislative sphere. So bills that would phase out hold harmless and increasingly make sure that all of the basic education funding is run through the formula. Another set of bills would be those that would specifically try to steer money toward underfunded districts or make sure that all of new education money that's added to the basic education funding goes only to underfunded districts. And then there's the governor's budget, which would bring all schools up to the 2020 funding level equitably, like as if that money from this current school year would be distributed equitably, which is a huge improvement. That would mean that if your district is currently receiving 20 million less than it should, it would get that 20 million. What it also does is it maintains hold harmless by making sure that no district loses money. So there's also a legal angle, and there is one particular lawsuit, often called the William Penn lawsuit. Sometimes it's called the school funding lawsuit, and that's currently in court, and it's been in court for years. It is scheduled to have its day in court this spring, I think, but that date has repeatedly been pushed back, partly due to COVID and partly, I would say, that the legal system in general moves slowly. But what will happen is, even assuming that the court rules in the favor of the schools and says, yes, the state is currently violating the Constitution in the way that it is funding and underfunding districts, it's still going to get kicked back to the legislature. We're still going to need our lawmakers to fix it. It's just that now they'll have basically a court order to do so. So when just getting into the numbers, what will it take? In the state house, we would need 102 votes to get fair funding legislation passed. And we think we need to convince about 20 new lawmakers to support legislation like that. In the Senate, we need 26 votes to get fair funding passed, and we need both of these. And we think we need to convince about 6 senators who are not currently on board to get on board. Which, when you break it down like that, I find encouraging. So what can we do? Certainly engaging on social media is a big deal. And it's not just, I think sometimes people think social media, almost like it's kind of shallow or whatever, and it can be, let's be real, but it also can be very powerful. And that is because when you engage on social media about an issue like this, and you talk about the inequities and the racial bias in the formula, and you share things that help educate your friends and family about the issue, that makes a difference because it begins to raise more public support for this issue. And that's really important because I sometimes have legislators say things like, I don't really hear from public school parents about anything, funding issues in particular. I might hear from charter parents, I might hear from school board members, I might hear from superintendents, but I'm not hearing from parents, and I'm not really hearing from taxpayers about school funding issues. And so they need to hear from public school parents and from taxpayers about how this issue affects them and that it matters to them. And they have straight up said, if people really cared about this, it would get done, which they should be fixing it anyway. Let's be real, because what's happening is not fair. But the way the world works, the way politics works, is that it does take public support to get something done. And so getting loud on social media, doesn't just have the effect of, whoever might comment or like on your post about it, but others see it and more people are informed. And then taking it out of more of the Facebook and Instagram world to Twitter, especially, there you also can reach out, and it's a very public way to advocate because you're tagging legislators, and you can help raise the volume in a way that they are particularly likely to see, and to get the message that there is public support for fair funding. Other ways: writing a letter to the editor, writing an op-ed, anything you can think of along those lines to get the word out, in those traditional newspaper type formats is good. But also the non-traditional ways are good too. If you have a creative idea, maybe something I'm not even talking about today, it's probably worth doing. It's probably at least worth considering. We get used to thinking in the ways that we're used to, and there are ways to advocate that we probably haven't even touched on yet. Certainly, not in this Pennsylvanians for Fair Funding group. Another thing: reach out to legislators. You have one state representative and one state senator who are yours. They need to hear from you. They need to know that this is an issue that matters, that this is an issue you're thinking about when you vote. They need that pressure. You can reach out to them via email, which I know a lot of people are most comfortable with. That is fine. Phone calls, in some ways, are even better, but don't not do the email just because you don't want to do the phone call, if that makes sense. But they do tally phone calls that come in about particular issues. You can reach out and ask for a meeting. Most state representatives and senators will meet with their constituents via Zoom, and depending on the situation with COVID and everything, sometimes face to face. Certainly before COVID, face to face. But reach out and say, "I want a meeting. I want to tell you why this matters." You don't need to be an expert on the issue. This needs to be understood whether you're emailing or calling or meeting. You are allowed to just be there to say, "Here's my understanding and what I think, and I want you to fix it." You don't need to feel like, well, I need to be an expert in order to have that conversation. You truly don't. These folks work for us. They are our elected representatives. And so I urge you, don't wait until you feel like you've got all your ducks in a row, or like you feel like an expert on the issue, to reach out. Another option: join a Pennsylvanians for Fair Funding team. On our website, there is a form that you can fill out. We are collecting emails, and going to be sending out opportunities to join a team. There is a writers team, there is a legislative team, there's a school directors team, and I'm probably missing some other ones, social media, and I think there's at least one other one. But basically, the idea is there's different ways to advocate, and there's different things that need to be worked on. So if you're interested in participating in that way, please reach out, because what we want folks to be able to feel like they're able to bring their particular skills and abilities to this fight. So yes, go to pafairfunding.org. There is a form you can fill out there, and emails are going to be coming with updates, information, action items, and it's definitely the opportunity to join a team. So kind of to wrap it up, I just want to acknowledge everybody advocates in different ways. There are definitely people who are like, "I cannot talk on the phone. I have phone anxiety, not going to do it." Don't. Write a letter, email, get on social media. There are others who feel very comfortable in person and not so much on social media. Please reach out to your legislator and set up an in-person meeting. Bottom line is, our kids cannot wait any longer for this to be fixed. It's been going on for decades at this point, and if things proceed as they are right now, my grandchildren will be in elementary school still being underfunded, and that is just completely unacceptable, that Pennsylvania kids have to deal with that. So thank you all. Please reach out with questions. I would love to hear any other things that come up from this video, any other any of those frequently asked questions that could be added to these videos, things you want to learn more about, that sort of thing. Thank you so much. Everybody have a great day.